People can be killed anywhere for any reason, but I don't think it's an unjust generalization to say that it's more likely to be killed for the reason of being different in a small town than a big city. That's not to say that everyone in a small town is a bigot or that no one in a city can be a bigot, but there's definitely something about living in a small town that makes one more likely to be a bigot. For one, there's much less diversity among an already smaller population. It's easier to hate who you don't know. It's easier to be afraid of those you don't interact with. It's easier to believe negative things about people who you don't have any first hand experience with, and therefore it's easier to dehumanize them. Have you ever wondered why there seems to be more racism in areas of people who don't live among other races? You'd think they'd be happy. What are they so angry about? They seem not to have any reason to hate other people or react to what other people are doing outside of what the media is telling them because they don't live close to them. People tend to be more isolated in small towns that have more open fields and less tight, crowded streets. There's a lot more land between houses, putting a literal distance between people. Everything seems farther away. Gas stations, general stores, etc. I've been to places where there's one single pizza place within a 20-mile radius. The less places to go, the less things to do in a social setting. The less socializing, the less experience people have with diversity of thought. That's not to say that there's zero sense of community in small towns. People aren't completely isolated. Small, tight-knit communities do exist. But even then, the community is connected by the ways of the church. Many people go to church for their weekly spiritual refill. Others go to church to make their Sunday bribery to God to forgive them for the 6 days of debauchery they just had. But then others go to church for a sense of community. For whatever specific reason they go to church, it's definitely not due to a diversity of ideas, right? Churches preach for you to listen.
What you talking over here? Hey! What you talking? I'm talking to you, sir. Thank you. God bless you. I'm preaching.
You do not engage in a conversation. Challenging the status quo within this small, tight-knit community not only makes you feel unwelcome by the church, but also unwelcome within the community, which in a lot of small towns tend to be the same thing. Hate groups give people the same sense of belonging as the church. While the church brings the community together with love and a sense of belonging to a community as Christians, hate groups bring the community together with a shared hatred of someone else and a sense of belonging as a community as white people. That's not to say that some people aren't full of hate for reasons outside of the conditions of living in a small town. You can find people full of hate anywhere. But living in a small town and the effect it has on their social interaction within the community, including a sort of isolation of ideas, that ensures people that are already susceptible to hate, to groupthink or tribalism, to become active bigots touting ignorant ideas and are willing to take actions to prove themselves to the group, like street gangs in inner cities.